over 70, slammed into the back of my vehicle while I was barely moving from that red light. I remember my daughter being right next to me.
As I was making it, I just get a message on my Apple Watch that says, help, car crash, cat's not breathing.
I was like, my baby's in the back, and she didn't see her. And I was begging her. I said, please help my baby. And I tried to get her to go away from me. I tried to get someone to help her.
It was Dr. Seaman, and she took the phone from my hand and said, hey, this is Dr. Seaman. You will transport Nicole Louthain here to Sanford.
I was trying to reach my daughter, and I was begging them, please don't let my baby die. Please help her. She was only 6.
Right, and welcome back to another episode of Ill Ego Red Tape Talk. I'm your host, John Nostos, aka Ill Ego CEO, and I'm here with my two counterparts, Dion Two Cup Larry and Cody Big Meat Malk. And today we have an extra special couple guests on the show with us, Nicole and Robert Louthain from Grand Forks. This is probably one of our most important podcasts we've done. In all respects to all the military veterans and police officers that have come on, but this seems like a really important conversation to have right now and to put into the public eye. And so we were fortunate enough to get Robert and Nicole to come on and share their story with us. So I'm sure most people who are on the internet, at least locally on Facebook, have seen this story floating around on Facebook. It's gone kind of viral recently, and it's because there's some serious discussion to have here about what's going on in this particular case, and then take a look at our local laws and see how flawed they are. So Nicole and Robert, thank you for coming on the show. We appreciate you.
We really appreciate it.
So let's just let's kind of start things off. Might be heavy, but let's go back to the beginning so people can kind of understand the timeline of the story. Back in June of 2024, is that correct?
Yep.
You were involved in an accident.
Yep. So June 3rd, I was bringing my daughter home from drum lessons, and we had stopped at Walmart, and then that's how we ended up at the intersection. We were about 10 minutes away from home. I was at a red light, and we were singing and dancing and eating ice cream. I mean, it's horrible that she died, but I think as a mother, I couldn't have asked for a quicker death for her. We were sitting there, and then about 1.2 seconds after the light turned green, a impaired driver, they won't tell me what speed he was going. They'll just say ungodly speed. It's 55 there, so I'm guessing he was going well over 70. Slammed into the back of my vehicle while I was barely moving from that red light. My daughter was buckled. She was in the correct spot in the car, in a car seat, correctly secured, and there was no place for her body to go. So she ended up getting wedged against the passenger seat, the back of it, because there was no trunk, there was no back seat, there was barely a front seat. And her, what do you call it? Brainstem was dislocated on impact, and so she immediately went into cardiac arrest. And during the accident, I sustained a really bad brain injury, and so it took quite some time for my memories to come back. And I remember most of the accident. It's very choppy, and I remember my daughter being right next to me. And it was, it was really hard because my vision was very it was very difficult to see. I could see, it kept going in and out. It was very blurry. A woman was trying to help me, and I remember saying what happened, and she said, "You were in a car accident," and I immediately freaked out. I was like, my baby's in the back, and she didn't see her. And I was begging her. I said, "Please help my baby," and I tried to get her to go away from me. I tried to get someone to help her. And then this part I don't remember very well, but I remember they were able to get inside the vehicle and unwedge my daughter. And I remember a very young man, his voice, I don't remember his face, but I remember his voice. He said, I think he was on the phone with 911. But he said, "She's not breathing," and this is just within minutes of the accident. And so I'm trying to get away from this woman. I was trying to reach my daughter, and I was begging them, "Please don't let my baby die. Please help her." She was only 6, and so I had my Apple Watch on, and I was able to contact my husband, and I shared those text messages saying that was Rob's first day. He had just made tech sergeant. It was his first day being a tech sergeant officially. And so you see I'm joking with him. It's normal to get punched in the chest when you put on a new rank, and you see us from joking around to you see help me, cat's not breathing, car crash. And he was at home making dinner. And I don't remember the woman taking my phone, but she took my phone and called my husband saying I don't remember what she said to you, but that you need to get to the hospital.
So what she said was, I was making, I'm not cultured enough to say it right, but burrito tacos, which is one of Kat's favorite.
Awesome.
So as I was making it, I just get a message on my Apple Watch that says, help, car crash, cat's not breathing. And so in like a state of shock, I was kind of just like, oh, it's not that bad. It's just, there's some confusion going on.
Yeah.
So start getting ready, and then that's when I get the phone call of, it said my wife was calling. So it was almost reassuring because I was like, okay, so it's not that bad. And I answer it, and I just say, "Hey, is this Nicole's husband?" I said, "Yes." And she just goes, "I would stop what you're doing right now and get to the hospital." So I get in the car, and I'm driving. And I end up calling my sister because I just needed someone to talk to as I was driving because, I started experiencing the fight or flight response.
Yeah.
So I just need someone to kind of keep my mind calm from doing anything irrational. And we get to the intersection, and I look over, and, Nicole's asked me questions about what the car looked like when I saw it. And I couldn't even tell you which way was the front, which way was the back. So I get to All True, and then walk in. And, first, I in a panic, I think I walked in somewhere I wasn't supposed to be because I just walked into the open garage bay and into a hallway where I think the paramedics sat. And then they say, "Hey, what's going on?" I was like, I think my wife and daughter were just transported here, and I don't know where to go. So they took me the back way. I go in, and then Nicole gets wheeled in, and I walk over, and I don't know if you've ever interacted with someone where there's just nothing in the eyes. It's like they're just seeing straight through everything. And I'm talking to her, but she's not responding. And she's just staring up. And then I get pulled in the other room saying, "Hey, your daughter's just in the room next door." and go next door, and there's a lot of blood. She was on a breathing apparatus, and I, in a weird sense, I was relieved because I didn't think anything was wrong. You never want to think those things.
Yeah.
So then, kiss her forehead, and I'm like holding her, and then a doctor comes in saying, "Hey, your daughter's going to be medevaced, but your wife's going to stay here. And more than likely, you're going to have to make some terrible decisions."
Didn't the doctor stop you before you came in?
Yes,
Before you saw that?
that's it. More than likely, you're going to have to make some tough decisions. And I kind of looked at her saying, "What does that mean?" She said, "You're either going to have to stay here with your wife, or you're going to have to come to Fargo with your daughter." And so Nicole and I always had a rule where if something happened, the other one's going to be okay, and to go with Kat. So I went with Kat. And not to prolong my side of the story, but I just want to talk about when I got to Sanford, ran in. Luckily, I had some amazing military leadership that just dropped everything they were doing to give me a ride and just to be with me. When I ran in, I finally saw Kat, but before I could even get to her body, a doctor stood in the way and said, "I just want to let you know your daughter is brain dead." And it was a weird thing, because one thing we've discovered is Nicole and I are grieving in different ways, because I thought for sure I was going to lose my wife and my daughter that day. So while the grief is still hard, the fact I have my wife is just such a blessing.
Yeah.
In a way.
You've got reliefs.
Exactly. And then Sanford was amazing, because I remember blowing up All True phone, holding my daughter's hand at Sanford. And everyone I talked to, I was begging, "Please, I don't want to make this decision without my wife here. I want my wife to see my daughter before she goes, because she's being kept alive by machines. Please transport my wife to Sanford." And originally I just kept saying, they kept saying no, they couldn't do that. But we had this amazing doctor. I think her name was Dr. Seaman. It was Dr. Seaman. And she took the phone from my hand and said, "Hey, this is Dr. Seaman. You will transport Nicole Louthain here to Sanford." And whoever's on the phone, I felt bad in the sense, because they were just kind of like, "Oh, yes, ma'am." And hung up the phone. And then sure enough, Dr. Seaman comes into the room again 10 minutes later saying, "Hey, your wife's on the way." And then in a weird sense, I was feeling comforted, because I was like, okay, when my daughter passes, Nicole will be here. And when Nicole passes, I'll be here. And we're just, I don't know, I'm lucky I still have my wife.
And that's another thing that doctors can't explain. We don't know how I made it. From my understanding, my brain shifted like 6 or so millimeters, which is a huge shift.
Yes.
And that's because I had a like 9.5 millimeter brain bleed, and usually at 10, they do burr holes. But mine was progressing so fast that there's nothing they could have done. And somehow at 9.5, it stopped. It completely, they don't know why it stopped. They don't know how it stopped, but it stopped. And then after the bleeding stopped, that's around the time that I call it waking up, because the part in between right before they cut me out of the car, between when they cut me out and when I woke up in the hospital and I started retaining my memories, because before my memories were resetting about every 5 minutes. And so I woke up and my best friend, to my best friend and Audrey. I was very confused. I was like, what happened? Because I remember the accident. I remembered the accident. I remember that woman's voice that was holding my head and trying to hold me back. But it felt like a dream, and I didn't understand. And so I woke up, and I guess this was the 100th time I asked Audrey, like, what happened? And then she started to realize that I was understanding. So she got the doctor, which that poor doctor had to repeat themselves quite a few times because my memory, even though it wasn't resetting every 5 minutes, it was still resetting after a certain amount of time. And then I refused treatment because they would not let me see my daughter. I really pissed off the doctors, but they should know better. So finally they said, all right, Nicole, if you just go to this MRI, you can go see your daughter. And so I said, okay. I got the MRI. I went to go see my daughter, and she just looked like she was sleeping. And so I sat next to her. I just held her hand, and we had an amazing nurse. His name was Peter, and I kept asking, I said, can you fix her? And I asked it so many times that I think he lost count. And finally, one time, he explained again why he could not fix her and the extent of the damage. And then I want to say it was the next day, he had explained again, and because she started to deteriorate because she wasn't getting oxygen to her brain. And so it was literally a matter of time before her body gave out. And so I looked at my husband and I said, did you sign a DNR, which is a do not resuscitate? And I think that's really when it started to click that we had to make this choice as a parent. And again, she was only 6. And so it just pisses me off because I couldn't walk. I was slurring my words. My memory was going. I had issues with my vision. I had so much wrong with me, and then my daughter had so much wrong with her. And this asshole, sorry, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that, walked out unscratched. He was in this ginormous truck, and it looks like from the video footage that he sped up before he hit me. And he didn't go to the hospital. He wasn't injured. He was completely fine. But he obliterated my car. And I'll never understand people that make those actions and those decisions to get behind the car or get behind the wheel and drive after drinking, because this was 100% preventable. We were just coming home. We were 10 minutes away from home. He was about an hour away from home. And that's another thing that, like, we've been up to Walsh County, where he lives. And, you know, we take 29 to 81. And, like, those are major highways. So why is he taking the back way to get home? Like, that just... I have so many questions. Did he know? Like, has he done this before to kind of get out of drinking and driving? I guarantee this is not his first time. That's a long drive. And it was 6:30 on a Monday. It was sunny. I mean, how do you miss me unless your eyes aren't on the road? And that's when we come into another thing where the community has been super helpful with just giving us hints. And so I've been urging people, if you know about our accident, if you know Travis Bell, to reach out to authorities, reach out to my attorney, share the information you know. Because through the community, when I went live, someone shared, and these are all allegations, I don't have any proof of them yet, but I guess he was on Snapchat with a girl, and that's why he was distracted. but he had told officers that he was distracted because he dropped a strawberry.
Yeah.
So can I ask then with the reaching out you've done to the community and whatnot, and people kind of giving you guys tips and things that they may know to be true about him, what are some of the more convicting things that you understand now at this point leading up to the accident that he was doing?
So we know that he left a bar. We know that he was on his phone. We know potentially, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to share this. I'm not going to share it. Okay. We know a lot of details, and the reason I'm hesitant is I don't want to share too much and give him leverage, because I'm going to hold him accountable. He still thinks he's going to get away with this. He messed with the wrong person, because I'm not letting this go. He lacks integrity. I've never met a more selfish human being in my entire life, and everyone keeps asking me, Nicole, why do you think he's not feeling any guilt? And my response to it is, legally, I'm bound not to talk about it. But if someone was to do their own research, they're going to find it. They're going to find a lot of things of why I think he's not feeling any guilt, because someone who's guilty doesn't try to cover their tracks.
Yeah, I've processed this in my own mind. Like, I don't ever want to drink and drive, especially in today's world where there's Ubers and people who will drive your vehicles home from the bar with you, like all kinds of ways to avoid that, not to mention the forever existing taxis. But if something like this were to happen in this, as a man, I feel like I would be so guilt-ridden, I would be so destroyed internally that I would just fold and give myself in. You know what I mean? And just be like, yes, whatever I deserve, take it, because I can't believe this happened.
I agree with that 100%. And I've always said that as a man.
As a father, too, I think you get that, you know? Like, yeah.
As a man specifically, you grow up and you realize there's a lot more to being a man than the macho nonsense.
For sure.
Right? There's integrity. There's honesty.
Honor.
There's honor. Right? And accountability, I think, was what makes or breaks a man, and something I've always, because I'm in therapy right now, obviously.
For sure.
And one thing that is always a topic that comes up is that weird battle of conflicting morals where, we as human beings have different moral grounds. And it's hard to understand that your morals are different from mine. Because, and I've often, for multiple times a week, I'll put myself in his shoes. I'll put other people I know in his shoes, right? And I'll put people that know him in my shoes. And I constantly think, if I did this thing, would I fight it? Right. As an American, you have the legal right to do so.
Yeah.
But for me as a man, I can't imagine trying to get away with it. And I would own that mistake. I'd take that accountability.
Yep.
And I'd take that as a lesson of growth and a lesson of becoming just a better, rounded human being.
Yeah, absolutely. As a father, I just feel strongly that's how I would see the situation too. As well, I have boys that I need to, be the example of and to raise them to be men. And I think that would, people say, well, if you have your own family, you don't want to leave them. And that might be true. But when you make a mistake, especially one like this, you have to take ownership of that. And then you have to take the responsibility that you have to these young men you're trying to raise. What example are you going to set if you show them that it's okay to try to evade your mistakes and not pay the price or the consequence of what your actions were? So it's crazy. That makes him, in my eyes, I'll just say it, he looks like he's guilty as shit by the way he's trying to fight it.
Well, and that's another thing is even before I shared this video on social media, so many people in the community, and especially his friends and family, they only had going off of what he said. And at the time, he was telling people in the community it was my fault. When he got arrested, immediately he was telling people I was sitting at a red light and it was my fault. And so at that point in time, I understood why people were backing him, because I could not share my side. And then the video came out. And these people are still backing him. Yeah. And that was their argument is, well, he has a family. He's just using the law to do what the law is supposed to do. Criminally, yes. Civilly, no.
So here's what pisses me off about that. When people are in support of someone like that, like, for instance, these two are my boys, right? But if one of them chose to go and drink and drive and then kill a little girl or a little boy, whoever, a child, I'm not going to back them. Like, you chose to do that. Yep. At heart, we're good people, but if you choose to do that, you no longer have my support at all.
Yeah, you made the wrong choice.
And it's the same thing with people in Wapton that killed, with Bailey Bernstein that died. People were supporting that guy. Oh, he's a good guy. I don't give a fuck if he was a good guy. I don't care. He chose to hop in a vehicle, drive drunk, and then kill somebody. Yep. You lose all of that when you choose to do that. When you get drunk and you enter a vehicle, you're making a choice. That's your choice. That is your choice.
Absolutely. And when all this kicked off, we were silent, right? And that was because we were so scared to say something. And if we say the wrong thing, it's used against us. Right. And the whole thing gets thrown out. Right. I ended up looking up this quote because it's a quote I've thought about a lot by Martin Luther King, where he says, "He who passively accepts evil is as much involved in it as he who helps perpetrate it. And he who accepts evil without protesting against it is really cooperating with it." And
that's deep, man.
And I'm not going to lie, I was cooperating with it for a while. I didn't want to raise my voice. One, I was scared of the public backlash. And then Nicole just kind of took my hand and said, "I know you're scared, but just follow my lead." And she started using her voice. And while we want as much justice as we can get now, we want to make sure that if something like this ever happens again in North Dakota, that we have families that don't have to walk the path we're walking because they know they're going to be taken care of. They know the person's going to be held accountable.
Justice would be served.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and that's another thing. There's a couple bills that are going through the House and the Senate right now. The one that I was told about yesterday was 2290, and I don't know if it's in the Senate or the House, but it's being passed actually tomorrow. Hopefully passed. They're voting on it for the last time, and in it, it's basically if you are intoxicated, it takes it takes away the charging people under the statute that Travis Bell is under right now, because if you cannot prove that he was impaired, you can't charge him. And so the statute in 2290 that they're bringing up, it is enforcing that if you hurt someone in a vehicle because of your in consideration for other human beings and their lives, you will be held accountable. And it's not just 2290. There's also two other bills that are directly correlated with this, and it's SB 2128. Scratch that. That's not the one. There's one other bill. It's HB 1503, and it passed the Senate. And now it's going through the House. Have you heard of Tiana Weeks? I hope I'm saying her name right. She was the teenager a couple years back. She was injured in a head-on collision with a impaired driver. And because she was only injured and not killed, he was only given 2.5 years. She's paralyzed. She wanted to be a nurse. She was a senior in high school. And he flipped her world upside down. He had previous offenses, and I was told that he reoffended, but he got 2.5 years. And so why are we not holding these people accountable? Why are they being let go? And we actually talked to the governor about this when we went to Bismarck to kind of watch how the Senate and the House, their structure, how it works. And the governor said that we don't have the jail space. And that's why people with lesser offenses are being let go. This is a violent crime. In my opinion, this is a violent crime. They made that choice and had that disregard for human life. They knew the possible outcomes. And, you know, I get petty crime. I get you catch someone with marijuana or like they should be let go. Someone with a lesser crime, absolutely. Right. But people who are violent, like commit these violent crimes and they reoffend. This is a good example. Travis Bell allegedly has a previous DUI from 2000.
Saw that.
Yeah, but we can't prove it's him, and we can't use it in court because it says Travis D. Bell, not Dean.
That's
and
all they all. I've seen that more than once on North Dakota courts.
Yep,
it's the same guy, but they changed the name.
Yep, and it doesn't show his birthday. And it's funny because his ex-wife, she's reached out a few times over the last 9 months, and I finally blocked her because I straight up asked her, I said, hey, you were married to him for 20 years. You were with him in 2000 when this happened. Is this his DUI? And she went, I can't confirm or deny because I may have been with him for 20 years. But he was a very convincing liar, which it may be true. But when you're with someone that long, how do you not know that they were arrested? Like, she was pregnant at the time with his child when this happened.
You know.
Yeah, you know. So it made me really question where she stands on this and if her kindness towards me had an alternative motive.
The other thing that pisses me off, too, is the guy that killed that girl in Wapton got 5 years or less.
Oh, yeah, he got 4 years because I think his name, I don't remember, Chad's his name.
Yep.
He got 4 years. Technically, and this is the thing that I hate our system because instead of doing consecutive time, they do concurrent. So these charges are served at the same time. Right. So he got technically 10 years, but it was condensed down to 5 years. And then he got time served because 13 days after hitting Bailey Joe and killing her because she was walking on the side of the road, he got 4 years. And the mom reached out to me. He's not even in North Dakota. He's in some comfy correctional facility in Missouri, I think she said. But this a-hole on his driveway in chalk, someone wrote, sidewalk save lives. And I'm like, what a selfish, like, he never apologized. What an inconsiderate thing to do. Allegedly, it was his girlfriend that wrote it, but he left it there. He could have taken water to it. He could have erased it.
Shit.
He's sick in the mind, and justice was not served in her case. Like, it just blows my mind that our representatives are letting these criminals get away with this. And it's because, without bringing up names, it's certain representatives have committed similar horrific crimes, and in order to cover their asses, they, unfortunately, this affects the criminals and making sure that they get a lesser sentence. So
we talk about this a lot on the show, is how this weird gray area of the law exists where people can manipulate and get out of things. But at a high level, a lot of these particular ones, like we talk about pedophilia, sex trafficking, and DUIs, alcoholism, stuff like that, seems to be that the laws are created local level, local government anyways, in a way to protect them because they're big culprits of these types of behaviors and illegal activity as well. And so you see that the law kind of favors less harsh punishment in case any of the boys get caught up in situations. You know what I mean? So it's like it's a really shitty part of our legal system.
Absolutely. And if you notice, the one thing that all the stories that my wife just shared have in common, it's the victim was never helped.
Right.
The victim was always dragged along and suffered the most.
Yeah.
And, I could speak from my side of us dealing with all this. Was at one point, I thought I was going crazy. one point, I remember looking at Nicole and being like, are we in the wrong because our daughter died? And in the legal system, you know, and I'm not coming at the legal system in certain ways, because there's going to be moments where the person who's being accused is truly innocent and in the right, and the legal system protects that. But it comes down to the system does not take into account the victims.
Yeah.
Well, and that's another thing is people keep saying, because I before we show the video, I have said from the beginning, something is wrong with this judge on the case, because the actions that he keeps doing does not add up. And so they lowered his bond knowing that Kat was brain dead and that she was going to pass. They allowed him to travel.
Did they give you a reason for that?
Nope. They just said that this is...
They don't have to?
No, they don't have... Oh, that's where I was going with this. When it comes to changing the judge, I was told that it is Bell versus State, that the victims don't get a say. Like, they would not have a case without us, but we cannot request that change because we're not involved in it. We're just a witness.
So after this case concludes, you guys can go after him civilly then, right?
Yeah, we're currently going after him civilly.
Gotcha.
Yes, and so that's one thing people keep asking is, why aren't you going after him civilly? I am. I'm just legally not allowed to talk about it.
Gotcha.
What I can say with the most pride is we're wiping him with the floor civilly. But I could care less about that. I want criminal.
Justice.
Yeah, I want justice criminally. I don't give a flying fuck about his assets or what we have to gain. You can't put a price on my daughter. But what you can do is give him the maximum sentence, because he knew what he was doing when he turned on his car and got on that road. But that's the thing with this judge is they lowered his bond. And I was just told, well, that's how it is in these cases. What does that mean? They let him travel out of state. Now, there's a thing for victims called Marcy's Law, and no one told me about this. It wasn't until we switched to our second civil attorney. We dropped our first one because she wanted us to settle originally for $5,000. Yeah.
Oh
yeah. That's originally what she wanted me to settle for.
Here's your consolation of your losing your daughter, $5,000. Wow.
Yeah.
Get fucking real.
Yeah.
No.
It's a complete insult to even throw that out there. That's insane.
Well, and then I'm not sure what civilly I'm allowed to talk about, but she had got it up slightly more, and she was pushing us to sign. And so, Rob, I get where you're coming from. You just wanted us to be done with this. We wanted to be over with this. I wouldn't sign the papers. As something, I always follow my gut, and something felt off. So that day I dropped her. I got a new civil attorney. And the civil attorney told me about Marcy's Law and how it's supposed to advocate for victims, and that way you're kept in the loop about what's going on criminally. No one told me about this. They were supposed to. And then when he was permitted to travel out of state, I got something called a Vine link, which keeps me in the loop and gives me text messages about the criminal case saying, hey, we're having a hearing today at this time. So I was like, what's going on? I reached out to my civil attorney, and she did some questioning and immediately called me back and said it's already been approved. Well, CVIC is the people in between me and the state prosecutor, because I'm not allowed to talk directly to the state prosecutor. They should have informed me, but this entire time, CVIC was not doing their job. They were not informing me of my rights. They were not informing me of the criminal case. They were not doing their job. And so my civil attorney put herself in on the criminal case in order to keep us informed, because I should have had a say on him traveling out of state. I would have at least spoke up and said why I think he shouldn't be allowed to travel. And then with the BAC being tossed out, something's fucked up here. Something's not right. And then that's when the community said, Nicole, did you realize that he has an insider family member in Grand Forks in their courts, because the day that his BAC, the hearing where they were arguing whether it should be thrown out or not, his sister was calling all the police officers by their first name. And this was several people that came up to me and said, hey, do they know so-and-so? Like, why are they using their first name?
That seems fishy.
Okay,
yeah.
You're saying that this dude's sister was calling the police officers?
All by their first name. And it turned out...
That seems like a conflict right there. I mean...
Well, that's it. Is the sister, she's married to a man who is a juvenile correctional officer in Grand Forks and works directly with that court system.
Okay. So after the crash, they take him and give him sobriety tests, right?
Yes.
Now, we were talking earlier. I read he passed some of the sobriety tests, but he also failed some of them. If you want to explain what you were telling us earlier.
Yeah. So, working in the law enforcement field, I can tell you that the test he failed was the HGN, which is the horizontal gaze nystagmus. There's different portions of that test. There's a onset 45 degrees, lack of smooth pursuit. And while the police officer does that, usually they'll have like a fixed item that they hold in front of the suspect. That fixed item can either be like a stick with a small light on the top. Some people use a pen. I use my finger. It depends on what law enforcement officer wants to utilize, and everyone has their own reasons for such. So with HGN, horizontal gaze nystagmus, what they're looking for is an involuntary jerking of the eye, pretty much. And it's not just intoxication, can come from drug use. Unfortunately, some people have it naturally. But when you are under the influence of a substance of some kind, your muscles around your eyes are more relaxed. And granted, I'm not an HGN expert, so I can't, I could be saying some things that aren't fully correct. But the eye will jerk when it's focusing on something. And so when a law enforcement officer is conducting HGN tests, they're looking for jerking in both those eyes.
Okay.
Right. And each test counts as different clues, and there's a clue for both eyes. So if there's 3 tests, you can have a total of 6 clues, one for both eye. I don't know the exact number of clues that 6. He failed all of them. Yep. So if he got 6 clues out of 6 clues, and again, HGN's different per state. So my HGN training comes from Missouri. I'm not HGN certified in the state of North Dakota. But in Missouri, it is 6.
Okay, so he did the tests, and the line was 6, right? So he had to fail 6 clues to get the breathalyzer, right?
I know.
Or is it? What do you call it? Subject to the officer, right? If he feels like if he failed the test, then all right, can you take the breathalyzer?
Yes. Pretty much if they fail the test, they can take the breathalyzer. And that's not necessarily because they know they're drunk. The breathalyzer is like the officer's tool to pretty much solidify this individual's drunk. Because I've dealt with a scenario where I've conducted field sobriety tests on an individual. Then we get to the preliminary breathalyzer test with a PBT, and she blew zeros.
Yep.
And turns out she had something medically wrong with her. So that helps the officer not only determine if someone is intoxicated, but gives them the correct step of, if they blew a 0, then something's medically wrong and we need to get her help.
So the officer conducted the field sobriety test.
Yes.
And he thought, okay, let's do the what is it, BAC? Is that what you say?
So it's kind of crazy how they found out that he was drunk. I think that's a big misconception in the community because he was in his vehicle when the officer approached him. Officer didn't think he was drunk at all. And so he took his information, went back to his police car. When he came back to Travis Bell's truck, he was outside the vehicle, and then that's when he smelled the alcohol. And he did that stagmus test on him and a couple other tests, but he brought him back to his police car on the side of the road where he thought it was safer to do it. And they didn't do all of it. Like, I don't think he did the walking the line because it was a busy highway. But he did have him take something called a PBT, which does not hold up in court. He can fail it, but they're not always, what's the word? Calibrated correctly. So that's why they don't hold up. And he failed that. And so when they got back to the jail, they wanted him to take that breathalyzer because that would be used in court because it's calibrated correctly. It's a tool that you can use. Yep. And he said, no, I already took one on scene. And that was, he took the PBT. And for my understanding, the officer read him the implied consent laws, which he's legally obligated to, because if you deny, you get a minimum of 180 days suspension of your license up to 3 years. And then Travis Bell willingly took it after being told his implied consent laws. No one coerced him, but the judge agrees he was coerced.
What is the reason? Did they say specific verbiage on why they believe that he was coerced?
Yes. So in the law, if you look at it, it says that if someone says no, you shall, which means you will get a warrant to have to get him, I think, to get his blood drawn. And so he did say no, but then he immediately took the test. But because he did say no, right then and there, the officer should have gotten a warrant instead of reading the implied consent laws. So when people think coerced, they're like, oh, he was manipulated. Absolutely not. This man knew what he was doing. Mm-hmm. His lawyer just knew how to manipulate a singular word, the you shall get a warrant. But he willingly took the test. And the body footage of the officer, it's sealed. So I don't know what actually happened. I only know what the officer said during the hearing to have his BAC tossed.
That's crazy.
But they revealed what the BAC was?
I believe... I was told it was 0.13.
That's what you were told, allegedly.
Allegedly. That's what I was told. But someone in the community spoke out and said, oh, no, I was there. He blew higher, but that's an allegation. At least double
digits.
It was potentially 0.2 whatever, but I don't have proof of that. And people talk, so they could be lying. They could be just saying something.
Just one more addition to the field sobriety tests. HGN is the indicator, right? Because you can have people who function so well under the influence that their motor skills are completely good. They can do the walk and turn fine.
Yep.
They can do the one leg stand fine. But the one thing they have no control over is the HGN. Yep. So a lot of times with the field sobriety test, people will go, oh, well, he passed everything else, so that means he was fine.
Yeah.
It's like, not necessarily, because if you fail the HGN, a lot of the times, from my experience, if people fail the HGN, that's really all we needed.
You know what? Hold on, John. What blows my mind is I used to work for BNSF in Dilworth. Anytime there was any sort of incident, no matter what it was, you're immediately pulled off the train, sent into the office, and you have to immediately take a test. And they're going to test you for drugs and alcohol immediately. And what blows my mind is that that's not a thing here in North Dakota. You would think that if somebody was involved in a serious accident like that, that'd be the first thing that we got to do. Was the other driver drunk? Test him immediately. And maybe that's something that the laws need to change. I don't know. But it blows my mind that we can run into, bump into cars in the the yard in Dilworth, and we're immediately drug tested and alcohol tested. But somebody loses their life, and we're fighting whether or not they can use their blood alcohol content in the court of law. That absolutely blows my freaking mind.
It's not even just the fact whether they can use it or not. The fact that you know what it was and it's inadmissible.
Yeah.
Like that blows my mind. And I was gonna say earlier to that point, like when he smelled the alcohol on him, I mean, what happened to like the use of probable cause? And like now, hey, I smell alcohol on him. I don't need his permission to test him now. I just need to make sure he's under the legal limit or not and see if I can send him on his way. Like all kinds of, I feel like just loopholes in this legal system, especially around alcohol in North Dakota, is one of the strangest things I've ever seen in all the places I've been in my life.
Before I forget, this is the other thing that pisses me off.
We're pissed off.
So I'm a recruiter for the Guard. We do all sorts of events across with state events, like high school events and whatever. One of the other booths that we have next to us at all times, almost all the time, is Vision Zero. The Vision Zero booth is always there. So North Dakota is supposed to be a big advocate for not drinking and driving. So if we're big advocates for not drinking and driving, we need to have stricter laws against it.
For sure.
North Dakota is, and I'm not sure many people know this, in the top 5 worst in the U.S. for impaired drivers. And that's why we have Vision Zero. But I think
it's not working.
It's not working, and they need to look at the laws. The laws are where people are getting away with this. So cool, you're advocating don't drink and don't drive. Okay, that's your mission statement. What are you doing to change that? Because the laws are the problem here.
Yeah. A big issue, obviously, that I mean, I'm sure a lot of people don't touch on, and a lot of the people that are disagreeing with you guys in your case and have more sympathy for the guy. It's odd because I don't feel like people understand how alcoholism works and like how big of a problem it is in North Dakota, Minnesota, because there's not much else to do and adults like to ease their problems with it. But living in a rural area where you have to drive 45 minutes to go home. I feel like people try to be more lenient with that, which is odd. But when you're talking about an individual who is getting a DUI, likely they are probably addicted to alcohol and they're consuming it more often than a normal person or a regular person would. They're being much more risky when they're drinking it. The confidence, the ability to pass tests, like you had mentioned, their daily functions and a lot of those people drink while they're working or doing their daily job. To let him go and travel is insane. Like it is crazy to me.
Well, so I kind of have firsthand experience with this. Both my parents are recovering addicts. Specifically my mom, she's a felon. And so I've been through the system and I've seen the system, and I'm one of 10. I have 6 brothers and 3 sisters. 7 of us are from my mom, and I've seen the system. Well, she's just a mother trying to provide for her kids. We should have been taken away. I don't want to bash my parents, but I've had so much physical and mental abuse and neglect. And that's why we try to do better for my daughter. I take the most confidence that my daughter had the best life we could possibly give her. Yeah. But then I see shit like this where we should have been taken away. My mom was in and out of the jails and the prisons, and we had bruises all over us. How did the schools not report us? And I think culture has really changed on abuse of kiddos. But when it comes to the legal system, when they see a problem, they try to keep these families together. And with Travis Bell and his siblings specifically, the BAC hearing, we filled that courtroom with the community. There were only 4 people there to support him, and I believe it was his son, his 2 sisters, and someone else I didn't recognize. How could you stand there and support someone like him? Because I've been in your shoes, not just with my mom. I have multiple family members, and I'm not proud of this, who have committed crimes. I turn my back on them and I tell them, I hold them accountable. Do better. And you know what happens when you do that? They do better most of the time. But if you're going to enable that behavior, they're going to continue the cycle. And I think my experience with it is that's what happened with my mom. She'd go to jail get out, do drugs, get knocked up, have the child, and go back to jail. And it was a very clear pattern. And, you know, I may not have a relationship with my mom or dad right now. I absolutely love them, and I don't mean to bash them. And I hope that they know that this is me just trying to put an example out there. But people are not going to learn from their choices unless the people closest to them are holding them accountable. And if you know half the stuff I know about Travis Bell, I think that his siblings think they have something to gain from this. He's a very rich man. And I think that certain family members have something to gain financially from this, and that they're taking advantage of the situation. So instead of holding him accountable, they're focusing on what can they get from the situation. And I legit think that's their motive.
Or what will they lose if they don't back him?
Yeah. You said he has a son, so and like John was saying, is like setting that example for the next generation. Like, I wouldn't want my nephew, I don't have kids, but I care deeply about the kids that are around me. Exactly. Like all of their kids, like they're super important to me, right? But if John did that, I would say, I hope he goes away from his kids. I don't want him to set that example for his kids.
Well, it's not even like you're wishing ill.
Yeah.
It's that hey man, you know
what's right.
Yeah, using you as an example. It's like, hey brother, I care about you. Look what you did.
Yeah.
You got some growing to do.
Exactly.
And I, as a good friend or a good family member, I'm going to let you know that what you did is unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to hold you accountable.
Definitely.
I keep friends like that around me on purpose. Like,
exactly.
I don't want friends that don't do that, because I've lost tons of friendships for being that dude that'll tell you
what
truth
it is.
There's that,
straight up, because I don't want to be an enabler of you thinking you're doing good in life and I'm cheering you on when I should be saying, nah, dude, that's not the path.
There's that cliche saying that your network is your net worth.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to it, because I know, you know, when I was coming up in the when I was coming up in my career, I was surrounded by just horrible people, and I would always get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd always have, you know, good leaders come up to me and say, hey man, you shouldn't surround yourself with those people. And in my head, I'd be like, oh, what's their problem?
Yeah.
Like, they just don't understand him. Right. And then as you grow older, you're like, wow, I really shot myself in the foot hanging out with these people, and I should have listened to people around me.
Sure.
A little off topic, back to the court, but, you know, talking about things that just piss me off.
Yeah. I think it's way on topic, though,
Right.
because
It
we're
is.
talking about this guy and his character and how the people around him.
We go and we're sitting in the court, and, you know, one thing I thought was weird is there was a lot of police officers there. There was a lot, like lining the walls, all standing in the back. And I was like, oh, it's just, you know, a very important case, and they're just here to like show support. Granted, and they're doing their job. It's not any hate towards them, but the session ends. Nicole and I are standing outside. We're talking to our wall of support, which is, you know, on my heart. Just thank you for everyone coming out to that. And then one of the police officers walk up and they go, hey, are you guys the parents? We went, yeah, we are. And then 3 of them stood in front of us as Travis Bell walked out.
But he was covered by police officers.
Yeah, and it was just like,
That's fucking crazy.
and that was one of
Well,
those. And that's
I'm
one of
wondering
those-
if
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe it was to try and protect him from you or
that's
you.
what I'm saying.
I mean,
Like, I don't know what they were doing, but if that was me, I would have fucking them.
I made a statement. Oh, I want to look it up. I made a statement on Facebook after that happened, because his family openly told people that they were worried that we were going to hurt them. And like, we have no ill will. I have said this so many times that we're not the same. A lot of people are like, I would have taken this into my own hands. I'm not gonna lie, I've thought about it maybe once or twice.
I'm sure that's normal, though.
Yeah, it's
as a
very
parent
normal.
dealing with what
Loving
you're dealing
parent.
with.
Your
Yeah.
job
Yeah.
is to protect your child,
Yeah.
no matter what, at all costs. That is your job.
Yeah.
That is a parent.
Acting on it's a different thing, but definitely feeling that desire. like I couldn't imagine it happens daily. You know what I mean? So yes, don't feel ill about that.
Well, like we've never done anything to give the impression that we were gonna hurt him. Man, I'm sorry, I'm scrolling pretty far back here because I wanna mention it because it just bothers me that he has that victim mentality. That's what he's telling the community, that he's a victim and that he's afraid we're gonna hurt us. Oh my goodness.
Sorry.
No, you're okay.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to think, oh, they're gonna hurt me. You must have did something wrong, don't you think? If you're like,
Well,
I'm worried they're gonna come after me.
No matter what your status is, no matter how much money you are, no matter what kind of job you have, everybody needs to be held accountable. Because if you do kill somebody like a child like that, you are extinguishing potentially a long timeline.
Oh,
You're
yes.
no longer allowing that little girl to grow up or that little boy to grow up and have families of their own and so on and so forth.
You just made something trigger in my brain. I was upset when I heard this because it's the people in the legal system putting a price on my daughter. They said that it would be very different if it was a spouse that died because they can show value of that person by their income. Whereas a child, you can't. And so
That's horrible.
It's very common when you lose a child that you get a lower amount awarded to you because you're taking care of them. If anything, you save money by not having another child. How fucked up is that?
Wow.
But the post I wanted to bring up was I said it was February 27th. I said she was my goofy baby and I will always advocate for her. I was given hate for my blue hair, tattoos, piercings I have had several platforms try to delete my content and silence my voice. I have been told, well, everyone has one drink and drives. No, this is only acceptable behavior if you make it that way. And accused of being on my phone at the light. Don't forget, I have proof that I was not on my phone, and if that's not enough evidence, I have additional proof called my double dash cams. We are in the middle of an active court case, and I will not do anything to hurt this case, but the evidence will come out at trial when it's legally supposed to the people being horrible to me. What would you do in my shoes? Get used to it because your hate makes me advocate louder. I also have heard some family members are worried that my husband, our support, and I might hurt them. I have no ill intentions. In the military culture, we pride ourselves on integrity. I would never harm him or his family as easily as he killed my daughter. We are not the same. And so I want to reiterate that. I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to bury him in legal work because if our justice system works the way it's supposed to work, we'll get justice. It's so disheartening to see how things are going right now because I don't feel like justice is going to be served. And then when his BAC got tossed, that's when I shared that video. I'm done being silent. I'm done with people deleting my shit. I'm done. Oh my gosh. If you look at my Facebook, I've been more vocal about all the hate. The last 9 months I've been silent and I've gotten so much hate and so much blame. And people are like, learn to drive. You should have been moving. You can't move your car in 1.2 seconds.
I want to show this video because
I did time it and it's right around 1.2 seconds.
Yeah, like this. The fact that anyone can see that. First of all, props to you for having dash cams. I have them too, and I think everyone should have them. Yeah. I'm stockpiling a file of people who can't drive in farther North Dakota because it's just that bad out here. So, but yes, props to you because this is huge for you guys, especially with the way people are attacking you and trying to be like you were sitting at the. First of all, even if you were, this is not standard driving skills. If someone's at a stop sign, you don't just rail through them because they took too long to come off of a green light. Like
arguments.
Yeah, it doesn't even make sense that they make the argument.
Use that argument.
You can see the black car to the left. Obviously, they are slowing down.
Right.
He is not slowing down. And
clearly.
And with that being said, we talked about it like last week, and we were just explaining and elaborating on like the lights don't dictate how traffic works. Yes, it tells you to stop. But you can't, just because it's green doesn't mean you get to go. What if somebody's walking in front trying to cross the road? Like, we still have to take other people into account, which he obviously did not.
Well, I was telling Nicole, because obviously with this tragedy, you can't imagine the type of hurt you feel when people not related to the tragedy at all say, oh, this is your fault.
Yeah, that's
the
crazy.
light turned green. And
I bet that kills you guys inside, man, to even hear that.
I told her we could have RQ4 drone footage, thermal cameras, night vision, just all sorts of coverage, active stats on the dash cam showing what we're doing in the car, timers, just all these stats. And then a video like this would be posted and someone would still go.
Somebody was still.
Yeah, someone would still go, well, this might be edited.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would even, regardless of that, find someone to do some kind of forensic edit of this video content for you guys. You know what I mean? That could really break down the timing and the distance and all this kind of stuff. What kind of vehicle are you driving here?
I'm in a 2016 Ford Focus with a hatchback. And that's another
car.
thing is no one will tell me how fast he was going. I know that they got the box out of his vehicle, and I'm pretty sure that this evidence alone will help tell how fast he was going. I can only
distance and speed is all they need.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is I mean, he's going fast. I mean, at least 40 miles per hour it seems to be.
Well, that's 55 right there.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure he's going somewhere between 70 and
Yeah, why would he
80.
have slowed down? He doesn't see the red light at all.
No.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, he's reckless driving just right there with his potential speed. But to me, it looks like he goes faster right before he hits me. I don't think it was intentional, but it looks like he speeds up in my opinion.
You okay if we play this in?
Yeah, you're okay.
Oh, my goodness. You're right. It almost seems like he pushes on. You can hear it.
Sounds like it.
At this moment, did you notice him coming to, or?
I didn't even see him. From what I remember, when I was in this accident, everyone was... Sorry.
Trying to get it to stop. I apologize.
When I was in this accident, people were baffled. I'm the biggest defensive driver you'll ever meet. I don't fuck around when it comes to my daughter. I'm very passive. So I was in the right lane because that's the safe lane. No one's in that left lane. If he was paying attention, he could have gone around me. I am a very defensive driver. I will never do anything, especially when my daughter's in the car. Like, I'll let people flip me off. I'll get, like, if they're on my ass, I'll get over to let them over. I won't do anything because my daughter is my world. There is never a time that we're apart unless she's in school. 24/7, we're together unless she's in school. And so when this happened, everyone was surprised because, like, when people drive with me, I'm known as like the grandma. Every now and then I do hit a curb, but like we're going to overlook that.
Grandmas hit curbs.
Yeah, exactly. And so like, but it blows my mind because if his eyes were on the road, he could have gone around
He had
me.
options, which makes his argument even worse now. Like, yes, for the people who think it's his right to just slam through somebody who took too long to come off the green, there was another lane he could have got into now is what you're saying, to go around you.
Yep. And the people that are saying that like, I was on my phone. So this is the beautiful thing about, having insurance. With USAA, they track if you touch your phone. And we have that on my phone.
I was going to say almost all insurance companies that are decently sized have that. My Google Maps does that. So and it has to be on in order to like do it. So it's like.
But even if I was on, like, he doesn't have a foot to stand on saying I was on my phone. Because even if I was, that's a whole second. And I remember this. I remember this very vividly.
It doesn't matter what you were doing at this point.
Well, like the light turned green. My first thing is I look left and then I look right. So I never ever looked behind me. I never thought to look behind me. Now I do. I'm terrified to stop at stoplights.
I can imagine.
So I always, most of the time, my eyes are behind me before they go left and right, and then I move. If anything, now I take maybe 3 to 5 seconds before I start moving forward.
Yeah. I do the same going into an intersection. I make sure all the other sides realize their lights turned red now and that they should be stopping, because how many times I ride motorcycle too, so it's like customary for me to be certain that the cars have all stopped or are coming to a stop before I put myself into the intersection.
32nd, 45th, all the time there's accidents, people going into the intersection, T-bones.
Same with my intersection. I live off of 13th, and there's obviously been motorcycle accidents like relatively recently. And there's people that'll turn left on red, and I'm like, like I could hit him, sure, but it's not like I'm paying attention. Everybody needs to be paying attention when you're operating a motor vehicle. Like
you don't go, okay, well they're going, but my light's good.
Yeah, so it's time to go.
It's whatever happens, that's on them.
Yeah, no, that's not how it works.
Which is what people are implying by defending this guy and saying you were in the wrong. Even if you took too long to come off the light, it doesn't justify him driving through your vehicle.
It's crazy the lack of empathy people can comment on social media. I mean, it's understandable because it's social media and not to your faces, but like the fact that like you can just say, how about he does this to you or your family? Now what? And they can still say, well, he was in the right. I doubt they would say that, you know. It's tough.
Well, and that's another thing. The very first thing when we met with the state prosecutor back in August is my first question to her is, why are we charging him with vehicular homicide and injury? Is this the highest charge we can go? And they said, yeah, this is the highest charge.
Because of the BAC not being allowed, or just in general?
Well, this was before the BAC got tossed. And wow. CVIC was right there. They should have been able to advocate for me. It was not the highest charge. At that point in time, we have enough evidence to charge him with murder. So why are we not charging him with murder? I'm going to keep saying this. I'd rather us charge him with murder. And that video speaks for itself. His eyes aren't on the road. He's going a god-awful speed. He made no attempt to avoid hitting me. Why are we not charging this man with murder?
You did not hear any brakes.
Nope.
No, not
at all. If anything, you might have heard of the engine increasing speed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think you hear a tire chirp, but it sounds like it was like you just the impact sound and the video don't really match, obviously.
Yeah.
Because you can hear a chirp, which seems like it's when he hit you and slid you forward.
Well, and that's why. So I wanted to show it side by side, and so that one it's not very lined up. But if you look in my social media, it's further down. I posted both of them separately, so you could see the front separate and you can see the bottom separate. I'm not very tech savvy, so I'm not good with this stuff, but I'm not sure if that would help answer your question. If we played just the back camera, if we could tell, but yeah, there they are. Yeah.
So this is front.
Yep. Oh no, that's me breaking it down for the people. So it's further back.
Okay.
That was me telling them I didn't have enough time to react because so many people kept saying I was at fault because I should have been going. But yeah, that's the back camera.
Let's see here.
Because I had a feeling people were gonna say.
You hear that chirp though, right at the end there.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I think that's the impact of pushing your vehicle.
Yeah, I don't see I don't see his front end dip down at all from braking.
Like he broke, huh?
Yeah.
He had no regard for our lives. And what even
in a big old, that's like 250 or something.
Yeah,
huh?
he's got a 2500. That's a big truck.
Yep.
I remember driving by the accident, and then
Have you had anyone try to superimpose this and see what you can see in the dash here? I'm gonna throw it in my editing program and try.
And you can see his face. I've tried. I did a free trial on the software, but I couldn't figure out how to work it out. But I want to see what you can see in that windshield because you could when I slowed it down and zoomed in, it's a little grainy, but his eyes were not on the road. And so I've tried, but I don't have any connections to people that are tech savvy and can do that for me. I'm
not super sharp, but I got the programs for it. I'm gonna give it a shot for you and see what I can come up with.
A really big truck, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge, and that's still my question is why did he could have. He had no regard for our lives. He had every opportunity not to hit us. And I just I look back and we literally were at the wrong place at the wrong time. And leaving the hospital, I didn't have any of my memories yet. The majority of them I didn't have. And so we got home from the hospital and we got upstairs. And I thought it was so bizarre because my plant was hanging on I loved plants. It was hanging on the porch. I'm like, that's weird. Why is it out there? And then it clicked. It had spider mites. That's why we stopped at Walmart after drum lessons. I had to get the medicine for it. And then a few weeks later, I was questioning because I had a memory of begging Rob for help. I'm like, this is weird. And so I went back to my text messages, and sure enough, I begged Rob for help. And unfortunately, those text messages are when a big portion of my memories came back. Some of my memories came back from nightmares. I still, and I'm glad I don't have this memory fully back, but I have a lot of nightmares of seeing them do CPR on Kat, but I can't say for sure that I saw it because I'm not sure if it's a memory or if it's a nightmare. So in the beginning, it was really hard to tell reality separate from my dreams. And so I'd wake up and I'd vomit, or I'd wake up screaming, and it happens a lot less now. But I have been diagnosed with PTSD from the accident.
Oh, I can only imagine.
How have you been able to deal with it?
It's not healthy. It's not healthy how I'm dealing with it. The only way I've been able to get through this is not thinking about it. Last week I saw a therapist for the first time, but there's a lot of things I'm not ready to face. I'll face them when I'm ready, but right now the only reason I'm able to advocate so much is if I don't think about it, it can't hurt me. And I know it's not healthy, but in the beginning I crumbled, especially when the memories came back. I know it's very taboo, and I was really suicidal. It's something I still struggle with. So the only thing I have to compare it to is my grandfather. He was a cop in Chicago. He was an officer for over 40 years. And when Kat was 2 months old, my grandmother's heart stopped. We just thought she was sick with the flu, and one day it just stopped. They had been together since they were like 14, and he was 65. 6 days later, he shot himself. And so I saw how that tore my family apart. So when those thoughts do come, I try to push it to the back and try not to think about it. But honestly, it's something I know that I need to talk about. It's just not something I'm ready to talk about.
How do you not think about it when you're running this page?
I just focus on my passion for justice. I get really riled up and angry, but I try not to think about the memories of the accident itself. I try to focus on the good memories of my daughter that I have, the things that I miss. Her being upstairs, putting on a show for her brothers. We call our dogs her brothers. And she would be dancing to Taylor Swift, and oh God, she was the biggest Swiftie. We actually had her cremated in her Taylor Swift outfit. I try to focus on the things that make me happy, and the things that were taken away from me. Because I guarantee you right now, there's some new music out that Kat would be jamming to, and it hurts my heart. And it's the good memories that drive me. I hope that makes sense.
I saw your post the other day. You guys had cautioned off her bedroom.
Yeah. We don't go in her room. I know it's been 9 months. It sucks because I've watched the videos. We had a Blink camera in her room, and it's so weird. It's so weird. Technology has been so weird since she died. Because the day she died, her camera stopped working right after the accident. I can't explain it. I told Rob I like to think that she's in the room playing. That's why it's not working. But right before the accident, before we left for her drum lessons, you see her, a light bulb goes off in her head because she had lost a tooth the night before, and she got $5 from the tooth fairy, and she went and she got her money before changing dresses and going out the door, and she put her money in her little purse, and then she put on some lip gloss, and you just see her bouncing out her bedroom door. And so going in her room is too painful. I've usually like shadows trigger it. When cars drive by, it triggers her camera, but her camera has not worked since the day she died. And I don't look at it anymore. I don't want to go in her room. I'm afraid that if we open up the door, that the smell of her room will stop smelling like her. This is shit that people shouldn't have to go through, that parents shouldn't have to go through, because Travis Bell, he's out right now. He gets to go home. He gets to sleep in his bed. He gets to see his 3 children. He has 2 sons and a daughter. How do you live with yourself? And someone in the community posted that he was out at a bar. And this is another thing I forgot to mention about the judge. He was out at a bar making jokes about his ankle bracelet. And that triggered me to go look into his conditions of his bond. And there's like no conditions on this man. If you had alcohol in your system, why are there not conditions that you cannot be around alcohol or at a bar? And so he has a wrist thing on that's supposed to track him 24/7 if he has a drop of alcohol. And so that's in there, that he has to wear that, and that he can't be around criminals, and that he can travel out of wherever he's allowed to, out of state. That's it. There's nothing else in his condition. So these people in the community that are saying he's out at a bar and he's making jokes and making light of the situation, how the fuck is he allowed to be at a bar? Why is that not part of the conditions? Why are they not stricter? Why did the judge not do his job?
Yeah, that's tough. It makes me want to say things I can't say on here, so I'm just not going to say it, but it's frustrating. Like, especially people in the community, when you're around somebody like that and you know that this is going on, it's like you're going to enable them to be around you. That's a very tough thing. Like I would, if he were to come into somewhere where I was at, I would either have words or I would have to leave. Like there's no in between. I'm not sitting and drinking with you, exchanging bar stories and stuff like that. Like you're garbage to me.
He should be alienated by the community, not protected, defended, and excused.
I've actually, I don't think I can get in trouble for saying this. I've actually been up to Fordville, because my husband and I, and we have a group of volunteers. We travel across North Dakota with flyers, and we've been doing it for a few months now. Where we're trying to reach every town in North Dakota so we can get justice for Kat and get our story out there about how horrible these laws are and how they protect the criminal and not the victim. So I have a volunteer up in Fordville, and one time I was going up there to give her supplies, and I walked into the wrong building, and I had asked, "Do you know so-and-so? Are they here?" This lady immediately recognized me. She looked me up and down with disgust, and she said, "No." And so-and-so is no friend of mine. And I immediately left that building. And I got into the car with Rob. I'm like, we need to go, because I was worried that if it got back to certain people in his community,
they're trying to find him or something like that.
Well, they try to find us.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize. So I think
this is crazy to me that people are really in defense of this man like this.
Well, and the thing is I think he's trying to twist the story, playing the victim, saying, "I'm afraid that the Louthains are going to hurt us." There is I'm terrified that this man, if something happens to me or my husband, with the things that we found out and the reports that we've had to make and the things that we've had to do on our end that I'm not legally allowed to talk about, I'm afraid this entire his entire family is going to come after us. Please believe me when I say his family is fucking corrupt. And again, he fucked with the wrong person. I have nothing to lose. My daughter was my everything. I love my husband, but I will risk everything to make sure justice is served. I have absolutely nothing to lose, and I will not hurt him. I will not hurt his family, but I will expose them.
Yeah. I mean, with that being said, hopefully this guy's life is never the same, just like your guys' lives will never be the same, unfortunately. And hopefully he has to and will live with that memory, just like you guys do, even though he may be able to get through it day and day. Hopefully it haunts him. That's all you can really do. I know. Obviously, I'm sure you guys want to be able to forgive him at some point, and kind of move on.
With that, when this all started, Nicole and I talked about, right, that we need to work on forgiveness.
Yeah.
We gave him every chance, right? We said this has nothing to do, like, the actions of a parent does not represent.
You cannot ask for forgiveness without accountability.
Yeah.
Exactly. And this whole thing, and, when we're working on things we write for, I can't remember what they're called. Victim impact, right? We talk about, I talk about the pillars of a man. Right, accountability, honor, and growth. And I talk about, there is no accountability. There is no honor. But the beautiful thing about the third pillar of being a man, right, is that builds into the other two. Right, and I talk about, if accountability is taken and he serves his time, that third pillar of growth will create the other two pillars, right? And then he's going to be this great person. He's going to take this lesson. He's going to teach it to others. And we're still trying forgiveness. But it's hard when,
he's got to meet you halfway.
You got to extend a hand.
Yeah.
I have literally met you guys for about an hour and 28 minutes. I can already tell that you are good people. And you are genuine in heart. And it really makes me sad that you guys are going through this. And I wouldn't wish this on anybody, having to lose a child like you guys, but especially good people like yourselves.
And I hope, as crazy as this sounds, I hope Travis Bell never has to experience what we're going through. Because that's nothing I'd wish on anyone.
I will say, if he ever goes through this, I hope that his offender does the same actions that he's been doing to us. Again, I can't get into details. He has no remorse, and his actions speak louder than words, and the truth will come out. He's a real piece of shit. Let me tell you, he has put us through the ringer with his actions, and I'm not talking about the criminal case. We have given him so much opportunity to show that he's learned his lesson and that he's not going to be a pathological liar. I get in the criminal case, he can't apologize to us without admitting guilt, but he can take accountability in our civil case. Is he? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I think a lot of people in the community, when the truth does come out, if you're pissed off about this BAC being tossed, wait until you find out everything. I think people in the community are going to be, there's no standing behind him. People will surprise me if they're able to be on his side after the truth is revealed. He has no remorse, and it makes me wonder how long he's been able to get away with these shitty things. Sure. Because he's so confident. He is so confident and full of himself that he thought he wasn't going to get caught. The truth will come out. I don't know how he thinks that he can get away with his actions towards my family. And that's why I want to bring up, we have a protest coming up Thursday the 20th this week. I've been a huge advocate for if you're going to be violent, get out. I want our voices to be heard, but we gotta keep it peaceful. And I know people in the community are so riled up, but I need us to stay calm, cool, and collected, because the second things turn violent or aggressive, the police are going to take the opportunity to toss us, especially if he has connections within the legal system. They're going to jump at that opportunity. And I really want our voices to be heard. And so I've never done a protest before. I really have no idea what I'm doing. But I'm really hoping that we can bring attention to what's going on. And like, not just our case, but also making changes for the future. And his attorney for the criminal side, Mark Freeze, he has made a statement recently that out of respect for our family, he's not going to make a statement, and that he's going to keep it in the courtroom and not outside the courtroom. He's upset I'm utilizing my voice. I don't think they anticipated me being this riled up because I've been quiet for 9 months. And now I've opened up the floodgates, and I'm not shutting up. I have a feeling he's going to request this to be thrown into another county, which doesn't matter. We have evidence. I'm confident that no matter where this court case is, I'm going to keep pushing for justice, and I'm going to use my right and my freedom to speech to make sure that I'm heard. And I can see why it upsets him. I don't think he's used to people being this loud. Where was I going with this? I don't know. Sorry, I went on a rant.
With good reason, though.
Yeah.
But this is obviously spreading like wildfire.
Mm-hmm.
When did the BAC get tossed? Was that recently?
2 Fridays ago, I
was
believe.
going to say, because I saw it 2 weeks ago on Saturday morning, and I showed my wife the video.
Yeah, so it's been spreading.
In bed, I was like, you have to see this. This is absolutely disgusting. And just showed her, and she was like, oh. So.
We went from, I think, having 1,000 followers to over 7,000 followers. And I know that our page has reached over 10.7 million people. And I'm not going to stop. I wish I knew how to use like Instagram and TikTok. People keep saying to like utilize these other platforms.
This is the only way that you can get positive change.
Yep.
You get enough people to pay attention, enough people to voice their opinions, let the people be heard.
Yep.
Right? That's the only way that you're going to get positive change.
And you just can't stop. A lot of the times we'll talk about obviously like federal issues that are going on, and the biggest concern I usually take, and these guys do too, is like 2 weeks later we're on the next topic, and that's how people's brains work, and we always wonder what is going on. Why are they not giving us any follow through on what's going on? So I mean, as long as you guys keep after it, that's going to be the best for keeping people engaged and wanting to help.
Consistency is key.
Yeah.
With this. Right. I think with a lot of topics, there's hot topics. Mm-hmm. And then once the wave dies down, it's like, okay, well, let's just move on to the next flavor of the month. So consistency is key, just for the fact that many lives are impacted, and we want to change for the better.
Yeah.
Well, and I also want to point out that even when this court case, the civil and the criminal, is over, we're not letting up. This is not going to end with Kat. We're going to keep pushing for law change. I've been in contact with several senators. We spoke to the governor. I've reached out to the attorney general. I haven't heard anything back from him, and I've been consistently trying to get a hold of him. So we'll see where we go with that. We're setting up to introduce a bill. Unfortunately, it's in 2027. It's too late to do it for this term for 2025. But we are working for change. So even when this is all over and said and done, we want to leave North Dakota better than we entered it. And it's not going to end. It's not going to end here. Kat will be the change, and I'm going to make sure that she's the change.
That's awesome.
We would love to see it. Honestly, we would love to see it. I think that's only what's right. Yeah. You got to do what's right. So if there's any legislators that are listening to this, the time to make it right is now. You know what I mean? We got to start now. Do what's right for the citizens, people of North Dakota.
Well, and I want to mention that if you see corruption or things that you disagree with, judges are elected. Our officials are elected, you disagree with them, keep that in mind. Keep that in the back burner. When you're voting, make sure that you're educated and you know about these people. Make sure that you're educating yourself, because unfortunately it's these people that are corrupt that keep getting reelected. And I think a lot of people are not educated when they go and they vote.
Yeah, you got to pay attention.
So what exactly is he being charged for now after they threw the few things out? And
I have no idea. I think the state prosecutor is trying to appeal the toss out, and so it's going to go to the Supreme Court, but without that evidence. And it pisses me off that there was a segment that was ran saying that, we still have a case. We do not have a case. Under the statute that Travis Bell was charged for vehicular injury and homicide, you have to prove that he was impaired. And you can say that, well, I smell alcohol. Well, he failed the eye test. Well, he passed more things than he failed.
Sure.
And he has a fucking good attorney. This guy has got pedophiles, lower charges, and other government officials. This guy is not cheap. And that's because he's good at what he does. And so we don't have a case. If the state prosecutor continues with vehicular injury and homicide, and even if this does get appealed, I think we should charge with murder. But let's say the Supreme Court denies it, and well, we don't have a case. If she continues with what he's being charged with, there's not going to be justice. Justice is not going to be served. Yeah. And that's why I hope that people are writing their representatives and like making this known and being vocal along with me. And I'm going to keep pushing. Why are we not charging him with murder? We have plenty of evidence to charge him with murder. And that could be the angry parents in me. But 20 years maximum is not enough, especially since in North Dakota, it's common to get as close to the minimum as insulting. Like, it's so insulting how low people with similar offenses are getting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I was in a group called SAD when I was in high school, Students Against Destructive Decisions. And a common story that a lot of the other students would share, because we would go and share in classrooms, is, my mom or dad were alcoholics, and they would pick me up from school drunk, or they wouldn't pick me up for an hour and they'd be drunk and they'd bring me home. And it's like, that is all too common in this area. So there does have to be change, whether people are saying that the prisons are too full, which I understand, but there are a lot of things that we can do in order to curb that from happening. Like, that's insane. And like you said, they try to keep families together, whether it's good or bad. A lot of drugs in this area. There's a lot of small rural towns where drugs are, and so there does need to be change, and quick, because we're just feeding into this, and the next generation is going to do the exact same thing because that's what they see, and it's tough. So it's now or never,
Sure. So of everything that you guys are having to deal with, which is extraordinarily unfortunate, at the end of all this, aside from changing laws and things of that nature, what's the biggest, most important thing to come out of this for you guys now at this point?
As close to closure as we can get. And I think that, honestly, you never move on from a loss.
Right.
You just learn to grow with it. But I think getting a fair criminal sentencing is huge for us. If this motherfucker gets off, I'm going to be devastated more than I already am. It's affected both of our mental health, and I'm not going to lie, this is exhausting. And even though it's exhausting, we're going to continue to reach out and talk to people and tell our story. But every time we have to do this, we're reliving it. But if that's what it takes to get justice, I'm going to do it. It's just, I'm really hoping, besides changing laws, that we can get some closure from this and get some justice from this. And make sure that Kat didn't die in vain.
I just want Katarina to be remembered.
All the good we do for her too.
You know, and I think it's important to talk about, you know, what our mission is beyond, you know, exposing, quote unquote, the justice system and talking about what needs to happen. I think it's talk about how much we want to give back to this community. You know, we've established Katarina's Kindness Corner at a gymnastics place, Red River Valley Athletics in Grand Forks, where people can, you know, Katarina loved gymnastics. And it was one of those things, she'd get tired of it and want to go do something else. But gymnastics was always the thing she'd come back to. So we have leotards, where if kids are in need of leotards, they can take one that fits. Parents can, they have leotards they want to get rid of, they can donate them to that corner. So that way other available children. We have a sponsorship program for that same gymnasium where we're paying for kids who can't afford to go through gymnastics. We are running a stance against drunk driving campaign here in Fargo, where we have Katarina's kind of story as well as the consequences of impaired driving all around for people to see on the billboards. We are working on school fundraisers to pay for kids' lunches. You know, growing up, I know I couldn't afford school lunch, so I'd get that really shitty cheese sandwich with the crust cut off. So we're paying for kids' lunches. Where we raised over $200,000.
Whoa, 2,000.
Oof. Yeah. Well, we'll say 200. It looks good. No, we raised $2,000 for that, as well as helping fund library programs because of Kat's passion for all things books. We have a lot more things in the works, because if there's one thing we've learned, you know, I would say when we're coming here, I've learned people who are not from North Dakota have the most to say about North Dakota. So when we were PCSing here, I just heard, oh, good luck. It's going to be negative 90 degrees 11 months of the year. And then on the 12th month, it's only going to be 20 degrees. Yeah. And you're not even going to be able to see because there's going to be dust storms and, you know. So then when we moved up here, you know, we moved here in June, and we were just blown away with how nice it was. Minus the mosquitoes.
Yeah.
You know, and again, being just so uncultured about the northern tier, I was just like, how do we even have mosquitoes up here? I was so uncultured, I thought North Dakota had mountains. So I was like, well, at least we get to like see the mountains.
It's just flat.
Well, then I found out that, you know, you guys have a landmark for the largest hill.
Yeah.
And then the world's largest buffalo.
Yep.
Yeah. But anyway, when we came up here, one thing I learned is North Dakotans always have this tight-knit community, no matter what the city, what the town. Being North Dakotan is being part of a family. And I think I was so blown away by how quickly we were welcomed in. Out of, you know, I travel a lot for my job, and out of everywhere I went, nothing has felt closer to my hometown than North Dakota. Kansas City, well, not, you know, Super Bowl, I'm still a little hesitant to claim Kansas City, but.
Sure, fair enough.
Yeah, but the community here is just unlike anything I have ever experienced.
Mm-hmm.
And so with the amount of support we got, part of our mission is to help this community that accepted us be able to experience things Katarina would want to experience. And we still have more programs in the works. We're just not ready to talk about just yet.
Well, and I don't know how, like, where you guys fall religiously. Rob and I are very open that we're Christians. And so the way that we word it to people, this is not our money, it's God's money. And so we're trying to make sure that we're giving back. You see too many people who are given an opportunity to help the community, and then they utilize that money for selfish things. So we're working with our attorney right now. And so I think it's tomorrow we're setting up a trust or something, because people keep saying they want to donate and I keep saying no. It's a very big gray area, and I don't want to be accused of
taking money.
Exactly. Oh God. Did you guys hear the story about what happened the day after the accident and the GoFundMe was started for my family? You want to talk about hate? Oh goodness! There was a man in Grand Forks on one of the public pages on Facebook, and smart man. He deleted a lot of his comments. He was talking about how military is always taken care of, and how selfish we are, and how we're exploiting the community, and how dare we take their money. And he was calling us some vicious names. I was still in the hospital. My friend made this GoFundMe, and he had a lot to say. He was very confident. What people don't know is, and if you're military, this is very important. Most of people that are in the military don't know this. If you're in an accident and someone else causes it, TRICARE puts a lien on any money that you get, because TRICARE gets reimbursed before you pay your attorney. And so I thought we had a lien release, but because we have hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical bills. And right now I have quite a bit of money sitting in collections that the hospital sent to collections that I thought TRICARE would cover. So there's a huge misconception that, you know, just because you're military, you have free health care. I don't know what went wrong. My attorney's trying to figure it out. But right now I have a lot of money that I owe these doctors and medical bills.
Yeah.
So where can everyone find more information on these, you know, nonprofits or organizational stuff that you guys have put together that they want to contribute, be more of a part of? And then for the one that you're doing here in Fargo too, is that an event you're hosting, or is it actually like some kind of a nonprofit?
I was a little confused by what you were saying about Fargo. We just have billboards up.
Oh, okay. The billboards.
Yeah. We pay like $1,000 a month, and we have all the digital billboards on iDigital. They just rotate it. And so we constantly, on one of those billboards, it's always showing, what is it? It's that billboard right there. Okay. That Katarina, I don't have my glasses on, but like that's what we have going around Fargo right now. I'm a little bit better at explaining it. So we have the Katarina Kindness Corner at Red River Valley Gymnastics.
Do they do that here too at the one in Fargo?
They don't.
They don't. Yeah, you should.
Yeah, I'll take a peek into that.
We'll do everything in our power to make sure at least our community of viewers and local people can get on board with what's going on here.
Well, and that's what a lot of people overlook is we're just so used to kids being expensive. We just accept the cost. But if there's something we can do to help others in the community, all it takes is just taking that step. So we met with the gymnastics places. They're ran by a committee. We told them our ideas and what we wanted to do. This was a couple months ago, and they got back to us and they approved it. So right now, until the court case and all this stuff is over with, we can only fund 2 students at Red River. We want to expand that, but it's probably going to be after the legal cases. And then we have the Kindness Corner there. We have the billboards advertising, you know, don't drink, don't drive. We raised over $2,000 for the Grand Forks Public Schools, specifically Katz Elementary School, to pay for kids who have negative lunch balances, to make sure that they can get food, to make sure that their library balances are paid off. Part of that money, I believe, is going towards one of Kat's favorite events, the Color Run. It was the last event that she was able to do with her school. We have a parade going on at the base. I think it's in July for her, or maybe May. they're putting in a lending library outside Cat's before and after program on the base, along with a bench next to it. The kids, Cat was very well known by almost all the children on the base. And I think that's another thing people kind of overlook is kids don't know how to grieve. This is gray area for them. They shouldn't have to know death at such a young age. So one of the children made a bracelet for Katarina because we didn't call it a funeral. We called it a celebration of life. We had kids painting and making bracelets. We had bounce houses. We made it a celebration because it was bright and colorful, and it's exactly how Katarina would have wanted it. She wouldn't want her friends to be sad. She would want them to know that she's okay and she's still here. She's still with them. And death is just such a hard thing and too complex for a child to process. So one of the children made a bracelet that with Katarina's name on it, and outside this before and after program, they tied it onto a tree, and she started a ripple effect. So all these other kids started making bracelets with their names on it in honor of Katarina and putting it on the tree, and that's where that bench and that lending library is going to go. Awesome. It's so beautiful because I wouldn't have thought about that. Yeah. I didn't think about, how bad the kids were hurting. And looking back at it fucking sucks because they shouldn't have to go through this. I mean, everyone's grieving with us, and it's just something children shouldn't have to go through.
Sure. It's tough. Well, I think we got our line of questioning out for the most part.
Sorry, that was
no.
Really
you guys
long.
Were very thorough, and the fact that you're able to share at this capacity is surprising to me because I couldn't imagine what you're dealing with emotionally and mentally. So hats off to you guys for going through what you're going through and the way that you're trying to get your message out, and I think the pushback that you guys are facing, it's got to be a complete uphill battle for you, and maintaining your composure all in the process of doing so. But it's good to hear that you guys have faith, because I think you understand just as much as we do that that's the path you need to be on. You need to let God lead you and point you in the right direction, and that you're giving it all up to him. So commend that. That's awesome. We'll be praying for you guys. We'll have you in our thoughts constantly. And if there's anything we can do to contribute aside from this, let us know. We'd love to be a part of anything we can to help you guys out more if we have the ability to do so. So anything last minute you want to throw out there or say on the way out?
You guys are awesome. Thank you.
You guys are too. We appreciate you guys making the drive buff after that crazy storm we had as well.
Oh, yeah.
No, but thanks a lot, guys. We wish you the best going forward, and we're going to be participating and keeping an eye on all the activity from here on out too. So everybody else, don't forget to like, subscribe. Don't forget to share. This is a pretty important podcast, so I would love to see people really put this one out there. I'm sure we'll make plenty of shorts and content like this up for YouTube, so we can really try to spread this as far as we possibly can. Tell your friends about us. Don't tell your friends about us. Talk good, talk bad. Doesn't really matter as long as you are talking about us. Peace.